Hi. So, I think we can all agree that planes are evil demons, and I would literally rather walk 6,000 miles than be in a plane for 10 hours. And I was on a plane this weekend, and my lord was it horrific. Nothing bad happened. I'm just terrified. Terrified. And you hear it right now. Shut up. What makes them think that they have the right to make so much sound when I am busy doing important things like this? So important. I'm a very anxious person, as you can imagine. However, I like to think with my brain instead of my emotions. So when I get into a situation where I should probably be nervous or not, depends if I'm overreacting, I probably am, I weigh out every possible situation in my mind and the probability of that situation actually taking place. In my case, I just end up constantly thinking about my own death. Not very relaxing if you ask me. Depends what you're into. I should probably put a trigger warning on this video. However, no matter how much I try to remind myself that the probability World War III could break out over the demise of Club Penguin, or the chances of me having early onset menopause are very low indeed. There are two situations in the whole world where these intense feelings of impending doom just release into the atmosphere like an anus hurricane. The first one being doctors, hospitals, and medicine related things, which make many people very nervous, understandably. People die there. And the second being planes. I could easily go to the doctor, get some pills, get some therapy to soothe the anxiety of being on a plane. But this would mean walking into a doctor's surgery or hospital willingly for a minor issue, which would probably require some sort of pills or therapy. Let's be real. I only go when it's absolutely necessary, and I mean necessary. I broke my leg and I thought a bag of frozen peas would fix it. I couldn't walk for 6 months. It's a vicious cycle of hot sweats, heart palpitations, and thinking about death. Delightful. Now, fear of flying is very common, and there are many different reasons why you may dislike being trapped in a metal coffin of death in the sky close to aliens and more death. Maybe you hate flying with loud babies. I hate babies even when they're on the ground. Maybe you hate being so close to 300 strangers. So say the average plane capacity is around 300 people. Did you know that every 1 in 300 people have literal contagious Ebola? Well, they don't, but that's what your mind thinks. Maybe you're scared of terrorists, and in your mind, every innocent looking person with a rucksack has a literal Hiroshima-sized nuke inside of it. Even though you yourself has a rucksack, and the 3-year-old child sitting next to you who, by the way, you want to impale. Yeah, well, I hate every aspect of it. So without further ado, I'm going to remind you how much you hate these things. For absolutely no other reason apart from views and money. I mean, my passion and love for videos and saving lives. There are two big reasons why I hate flying, and I'm about to explain in depth both of them and why they disgust me. Anticipating death. You know how for some reasons planes decide they don't want to take off until like way after their time to take off. Until after a certain time where it has become completely inconvenient for every single person on board. Well, I usually spend that time reminiscing on what a short, unfulfilled life I have led so far. It starts with sitting down. An action I am very well adjusted to. But then people start putting their bags in the overhead. And this is stage 1 of anticipating death. And this is stage 1 of preparing for death. I start envisioning these large carry-on bags of doom falling on my head and puncturing my brain, or lack of. It's completely traumatizing, like put them somewhere else. Who designed this thing to be on top of your head? I wonder how many carry-on luggage related deaths there has been. I don't know, 10 million? I bet that has killed more people than the Black Plague, Spanish flu combined. I am outraged. Can I sue planes for this? I've always wondered this. Every time I'm on a plane, I'm like, I can't reach this, I can't see this. I always pull down someone else's bag that isn't mine and they give me looks. This is just a bad idea. And every time I'm sitting down, someone almost always drops a thing on my head. Literally, just last week when I was on a plane, someone was like, you're gonna have to move because I don't want to drop my bag on your head. That's a suitcase! It was like this big. It wasn't a carry-on bag, it was a suitcase. And she was about to lift it over my head. This woman woman was about 5'1" and had arms literally the thickness of an opposite chode. Not thick at all. I didn't trust her one bit. It was either stay here and get crushed or move over one seat next to the guy next to me, who was obviously very drunk and extremely creepy. He smelled terrible. I'm so sorry. I was outraged. Outraged. Completely disgusted. Next is takeoff, and this is where we move on to stage 2 of impending doom, which means I sit there for a whole like 3 minutes or however long it takes to get in the sky, just preparing myself to death and convincing myself completely and utterly that if I die, I will die. It will be in these next few minutes. And this is where you just begin to accept death and that it is inevitable. Everyone dies eventually, so maybe at least I'll be able to be in the news or the TV or Philip DeFranco show if I'm lucky. I love you, Philip. I can see the headline already. Girl 16, famous YouTuber, celebrity, take a picture, it lasts longer, dies in horrific fiery plane crash, whereabouts unknown, remnants possibly suspected, being held by a prolific paedophile cannibal group in Mexico. Going out in style, or I mean like going in, because cannibal. Moving on to stage 3. The goodbye text. Have you ever seen one of those documentaries about 9/11? I mean, everyone's seen one of those documentaries about 9/11. And no, I'm not about to make a 9/11 joke, so Wall Street Journal, back off. Anyway, in these documentaries sometimes they have the scene where they'll reenact parts, especially the parts about what they think happened in the plane that crashed into the Twin Tower and how these people acted in their final moments before death. Well, they all get their phones out and text their families, I love you, I'm sorry, I'm dying, goodbye. Yes, very sad. Absolutely no punchline, I promise. But I've preconditioned myself to assume that every time I get in a plane, I am going to die. This is going to happen. So obviously, as you do, I indirectly say goodbye to my closest companions. And as you can imagine, I have to deal with the consequences after. Now here is the second and final thing that really does bother me about planes. The right seat. Having the right seat on a giant air penis of death is of utmost importance. And no, I'm not referring to the fat woman sitting next to you, with last night's free orders of 20 chicken nuggets all for one person hanging over your armrest. Oh no. Do I look like the kind of woman to state the obvious? Maybe. Am I going to? I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. I'm talking about the position of your seat. So there's the window seat, presumably everyone's favourite, can't really go wrong with that. Maybe because you can observe the breathtaking scenery as you fly over Warren and as you fly over the beautiful Maldives. Or in my case, I get a 30-second warning before the pilot tells us over the intercom that we are falling to our death. Always one step ahead. And then there's the middle seat, or the awkward middle aisle if you're on a big fancy plane. This is just about as appealing as well, sitting in the middle seat. Not appealing. You die first. And then there's the aisle seat. You either love it or you hate it. My YouTube channel. If your legs make up about 95% of the length of your whole body like me, you'll really appreciate the legroom. But then there's the lack of the window with that false sense of security I ever heavily rely on. But also, sitting in the aisle seat, you have the highest chance of getting out alive if something sinister happens, without trampling on people's bodies like the angry cows did to the Professor. I will do it! And then I will avenge his death. If you're on one seat, it's very likely you would rather be on a different seat. Unless you're in the seat you want, then stop complaining, click off this video. The grass is always green on the other side and you're always in the seat that you don't want to be in for some reason. I always find myself in that position. This was me complaining about planes. Tell me if you can relate to this. Tell me if I've shared any reasons why you hate being on planes. Do you hate being on planes? Do you like being on planes? I've heard that some people like being on planes and that disturbs me. Unsubscribe right now. But like, don't. Your affection validates me as a human being. Thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. Like, subscribe and comment and do all of that subscribery stuff that you people do because you are part of my new slave cult. Yeah, I'm not gonna get arrested for that. Yeah.